Hey guys, how's it going? Joe here today, and I'm going over the Lava Cable Mini ELC Kit. This is the solderable kit. When I first started doing these for a fellow bandmate a few months back, I looked up quite a few videos, including the Lava Cable videos, and didn't really find very good, descriptive, clear, quality value videos, so I thought I'd give it a shot and kind of explain some more of the tips and tricks to make a perfect cable every time. They didn't really describe where to snug things up at and how to ensure that you're going to get a good quality connection and a good looking and functional cable every time. So I'm going to show you a few things that'll help you get there. First, have a clean workspace, and that's with anything you're doing. It always helps to have a nice clear space. I'll go over the tools with you real quick. Needle nose pliers, big pair of dikes. I have a small pair of dikes as well. These come in handy for some of the smaller internal parts. This is a safety razor blade that I use in my daily work efforts here in the shop. You can get them at US Cutter. I like them because instead of using like a flat razor, they're a lot more safe. So anyway, check that out. And then we have an all-for circular razor, which I use to just cut packaging open. Same thing. It's a safer way to do things. So, in your kit, you're going to get a cutter, or several, which I thought was kind of wasteful because I ordered 4 kits and I got a cutter with each kit, which I feel like if you're sending it to the same place, you know, it's a lot of wasted materials, plastic. We don't need any more of that in the environment. We already have enough of it. Some people are becoming more aware and more conscious of these things. I certainly am, and I like to do everything I can to not condone it. So, anyway, you have 4 different slots here, and I'll go through each one of those. You're actually only going to use 2 of them on the mini ELC, being that it's a 1/4 inch thickness, and then the core size is actually the 4th one down. So, here we go. They call for, I believe it's either 0.750 or 0.875, so either 3/4 of an inch or 7/8 of an inch. You'll get the hang of it. You can use calipers. I did at first, but you get to the point to where honestly you just look at it and you're like, yep, it's right there. That's where it's at, because you do it so many times. On the first outer shielding, we're going to do the second one down, so it'll be this one. And I'll put it on there like this, about right. Right there should be okay, so I'll show you guys. That's about how far you want it in there. You don't have to press too hard, just kind of rotate it around a couple times. And it'll slide back out and just go both ways. And I'll set it in a couple times and just redo it just to make sure, because it's just a lot easier to do it that way. And a lot of guys want to pull off. A lot of people, individuals, want to pull off this way. I don't really care for that because you can damage the inside. Just trying to yank on it, you can accidentally depress this, and then you're going to tear up your insides, and I just don't care for that concept. So what I do is use a straight razor. I'll just make an incision. You may have to go over it twice. That's a possibility that you'll have to go over it 2 times just to get that real thick casing off there. You don't want to press too hard because you don't want to cut through that braided wire. You just take it. I'll try and focus in here for you. Peel off this cable. There you go. That's your first step there. So we'll go ahead and open up the kit now. They come individually for the cable plugs themselves. You got 5 parts in here total. you have your cap for the back, which goes on last. Obviously your tip that goes in. Your long cylindrical insulator, and then as well as a cap insulator, and then your solderable pin that connects into the input. Here's this black shielding. This is the first one to go on. You have an opening on the bottom. That's the side that you want to face the shielding that's remaining on the cable, just like so. So you want that open end to be down, because eventually you're going to bend that 90 over towards that direction. That'll give you the ability to do so later on down the road. So you're supposed to take this braided wire and you fold it back. Just kind of fray it out a little bit, because then you can clean it up here in a second. Now they recommend cutting it down to about a 1/16 of an inch. At that point, just take your dikes, and I just cut it until it's at the base of the shielding. Just kind of use that as a guide. And then it may take a few times, especially if your dikes are old and need sharpened like mine. Now this does take some time. I mean, there's no doubt about that, but patience and everything that's worth a while. And you just fold it over. Get every little fray out. And eventually, it'll look like that. You just want a little bit to kind of hold that shielding down. And next we'll go ahead and cut this down, this part right here. So for this, what you'll do is when you size this correctly, you're already pretty much going to have it set up and ready to go for the right position on how much you need. You basically want to leave enough cable outside of the insulator to sit in the valley of this little pin right here that you're going to solder. So this requires you to go all the way down to the smallest hole. And I usually just kind of size it up and just kind of imagine. And you'll get good as it goes, but if it's sitting right here on the edge of this, it's about where you want to be. You don't have to press down on it or anything. It's already got a good amount of force on it. Just rotate it a couple times around. And on this one, you don't want to grab and pull. You don't want to depress this at all. What you want to do is just pull it straight out and jiggle it a little bit at the same time. And there you go. You got your cable in. That's all it takes. And now you're ready to solder it up. And then I'll show you how to know. I know just by looking at this. But eventually, once that tip gets into this and this, it'll be about even, and I'll show you that here shortly. Before we go and solder, you want to go ahead and take off the remaining shield on the insulator here on the white insulator. You want to leave it about half. That's what I typically do. Like I've got this whole piece here, I take about half of that off. And you can try and be as symmetrical about it as possible. And nice clean cut. Take some of those wires, make sure they're all folded back. Okay, we'll go ahead and head over to the solder table. You're at the soldering station now, and I'm going to walk through this part with you. This is a device called Helping Hands, and then it does exactly that. Allows you to set up parts to be soldered or tinkered with, however it may be. And I don't know if you notice on these tips, I'll show you here real quick. Basically, there's a little valley that cable is going to sit into. And it's perfect. It's a great engineering design because if you guys are used to soldering certain types of electronics like maybe even boutique pedals or doing any kind of board circuitry, the pads sometimes don't really take solder that well. These do. These will allow you to get a nice even coat of solder without putting too much on, which can add too much resistance. So I'm told. I've never been in that situation personally. Using too much solder causing an issue is something that I've only heard of. So anyway, here we go. So we'll put that in the other hand. And you want this part to butt up. And you want it square. I've seen actually some of those guys do them, and I didn't think that they looked that good or very well supported anyway. And you might have to just turn the cable so it'll relax, as it naturally either goes up or down. So if you turn the cable, instead of it going up this way, it'll actually go down this way and just rest right into that valley, to that little reservoir. And I'll zoom in so you can see this. Okay, and I use a 6040 rosin core, and I run mine about 380 to 400 depending on what I'm doing. For cables you can run it a little bit higher than circuitry. What I'll do is I'll just go ahead and heat this up a little bit and then add my solder in, get a nice little puddle going, and there we go. Now, lava cable definitely states that you do not want to put too much solder on there. I add a little bit more than I normally do on this one, but it's definitely nothing outrageous. If you can see, I'll try and, there we go. You just want it to sit right in that valley. You don't want it to be overwhelming, just a little bit, but nice, good contact. Back over here to finish up the last part of this. We've got our pin soldered on. It's good to go. Next part you have is your cylindrical insulator. You're just going to stick it over, and sometimes that'll mushroom out a little bit, so you gotta use a little bit of force to get on there, not too much though. And the best way you can tell, and this is where I've had a lot of videos that didn't really explain this well when I first started doing this, a lot of the outside insulator would be sticking out of the cap, so some of the braided wire would be basically revealed. And I don't know about you guys, but to me that just does not seem correct, and I've never seen any other video correct that and show you how to get away from that every single time, including the manufacturer's videos. So a good way to tell, and this is how I do, that little pin that's sitting in there in the middle, the silver one, should be just underneath that cylindrical insulator, just barely in there. And that's how you know that when you bend that 90-degree angle over and you put your pin on and you put your cap on, it's going to be insulated so you don't have a moisture issue or exposed wire issue, which is not good on any type of electrical piece. So very easy. You just take this, push it on, you'll hear a snap, an audible snap, and feel it as well. And then you have that open side like we talked about earlier. That's where you're going to bend for your 90, just like so. And then you'll take your cap. What I usually do is I just put the butt end on this, slide it up over the cable, and then just sit it right on top, square it up, and then back turn, and then to the right, and it'll thread right in there. Now, Lava states that you should not use needle nose pliers or any pliers to tighten this up, but I've actually ran into the issue quite a few times where I'll finger tighten these and then go back to check them later on, and they'll be loose. I think they do that because they don't want you to completely depress it all the way back and cut off the wire. So what I just do, and this is what I would suggest, and it works fine for all the ones that I'm doing to make sure they stay tight, because you shouldn't have a loose connection. I don't care what type of electronic piece you are trying to devise, you should not have a loose connection. So even if it's just like a 1/16 of a turn, that's all I do. That's it, just to push it over the edge a little bit to make sure it's not going to come undone while you're playing live or just down the road in general. And you also have a nice clean end there where it butts up completely. The shielding is inside the cap. It's protected from the elements to an extent. I mean, obviously you're not going to be able to saturate this in any type of liquid. Yeah, it's going to short, but you know, even if you're playing outside on an outdoor stage and you got rain or even moisture, precipitation of any type, it'll at least try and help protect it from getting in there. I really hope this helps you guys. Those are some of the pointers that nobody I could see anywhere else pointed out on any of their videos. But this will ensure a perfect cable from lava every single time.